Hello, it's day 5. You've made it all the way to day 5. Congratulations. Have you been engaging in the group? To be able to win the prizes, which the first one is a $250 coaching session with me or a $50 gift card to any store that you choose. All you had to do was keep showing up, be engaging in the group, and I hope you did because I've been keeping track. So today is all about overcoming boundary challenges. And yesterday I got a little ahead of myself and was excited about today, but here we are. So let's jump right in. Inevitably, there's going to be challenges when it comes to setting boundaries, whether you give up on them, whether things happen to get in the way, people cross them, misunderstandings, all kinds of fun stuff. Today, we're going to go through just 8 simple things that are challenges that do tend to get in the way of us setting boundaries. And the great thing about challenges is once you're aware of them, you can make a plan, set it in motion so that you know what to do when the challenge arrives. So the first one is a life shift. You may have a boundary and things change, people change, things move, or it just needs adjustment because maybe you've changed, right? Change is inevitable. It's actually expected. It's a part of life. And so sometimes new lines need to be drawn and old ones can be just tossed out the window, right? It is okay to change your mind. And this can be one of your boundaries that you allow yourself to change your mind, to evaluate that if things are maybe a little too constrictive, that you can change your mind and move the line out a little bit, move the boundary out a little bit. That is okay. Life happens, and sometimes things need to shift, and that doesn't mean that you're giving up on your boundaries or that you've thrown in the towel. It just means that you are adaptable. That's what that means. The next one is disagreements. Not everyone in your life is going to agree with your boundaries, with where you put them, right? It's necessary for in healthy relationships to be able to have a discussion about this and learn to be able to respect other people's boundaries. And this is kind of also falls into the relational boundary where you really do teach people how to treat you. And the more boundaries that you have in place that you follow through on, the more respect you're going to receive because clearly people who have boundaries respect themselves. And so if you have disagreements, it's gonna happen naturally. A simple conversation can take place where you discuss the boundary, why it's in place, and what's the purpose for it, and how you feel about it. And maybe there's a life shift and you shift your boundary, and maybe not, and you're just reinforcing the boundary. That is okay. The disagreements happen, and it's okay to engage in a conversation around the disagreement. It doesn't mean you're giving up on your boundary, you're throwing in the towel, or that you don't know what you're doing. It just means that you are a healthy person and you can tolerate other people's reactions. Okay? Misunderstandings. This one is typically the one that comes up because we have weak boundaries and so they're not really respected because we don't respect ourselves enough to have something firm and strong, right? Maybe you haven't really adequately paved the way for your new boundary to be respected, right? And what I mean by that is by telling someone what your boundary actually is. And we can't set up an expectation and expect people to read our minds and call that a boundary. That's not a boundary. A boundary is spoken, it's given, it's received, it's understood, it's respected, it's respected. And if that hasn't happened, then there will most likely be misunderstandings because that's a lot of a process that there's quite a few breakdowns that are possible. You know, this is a tricky one, right? Because other people may not like you to grow. People may not like your firmness or support you here. And that means that you get to make a choice. You're in a place of choice where you get to decide, are they even, what's the word I'm looking for? Or do they have the ability to respect my boundary? And if not, then really the consequence is, do they deserve a place in your life? So sometimes when it comes to boundaries, we come up against those hard choices where we get to decide, do we want someone in our life who does not have the ability to respect my boundaries? It's a true story. What about excuses? This isn't also a challenge that we come up against, especially when it comes to eating the whole cake. oh, I'll just start tomorrow. I'll just live day to day. Or it's just easier to say yes than it is to say no. Or if I set a boundary, then I might as well kiss that relationship goodbye. You're just making excuses when really what you're saying at the core of that is I don't respect myself enough. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I stand for. I don't have a purpose statement. I don't have a mission in life. Um, Excuses are just a way to get yourself out of the responsibility of enforcing the consequence of boundaries. And we haven't even talked about that. I told you guys, boundaries are a really big subject and it can go really deep, right? And so the whole goal here was to give you guys some tools, some things to be aware of so you can start to set better boundaries for yourself. And excuses is one of those areas where if you're making them, you're avoiding responsibility. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there, right? Your own patterns and beliefs, right? You may believe something and you have a pattern, a way of engaging, a way of adopted to protect yourself, to be in survival mode. And this is really just a way to avoid discomfort, a way to avoid pain. And if your boundaries go beyond that, then your brain is going to do its job and bring you back to safety and comfort and control that whole situation. And so if your own patterns and beliefs are getting in the way, then you really are in a survival mode. Your brain is still in survival, saying there's too much danger out there. And so there's no way for you to have any real boundaries. The first place to start here is with healing so that you can change the patterns and have supportive beliefs in place so that you really can have boundaries. So I know that's probably like a big fat bummer right now for some of you, but it really isn't. It actually is great awareness if you know that your patterns and beliefs are getting in your way, because now you know what to do about it. There's a healing process for that. There's a process for that. I really should coin that term, shouldn't I? Okay, moving on. Another one is fear. Change can be really scary, and setting boundaries usually requires you to adapt to change and the people around you to change. And not everybody is comfortable with change. This is again part of your brain where if your brain senses danger, it's going to go back into survival mode. And so the best way out of that is to heal. And so if you're acting from a place of fear, number one, fear is an emotion. And so you can acknowledge that and set personal boundaries around emotions and how you'd rather feel and what you'd rather do about that. Or it's really because you're still stuck in your own patterns and beliefs, or still stuck in fear from things that have happened, not that they will happen in the future or are happening now, but the things that have happened. And so really it's about educating and understanding yourself enough to know that maybe healing is necessary right here. And this is not to say that everybody who's healed, so to speak, don't have fear, because fear is a natural part of life, right? And so that's a whole nother conversation. Just talking about challenges right now. Trying to keep it simple here. Ignorance is a challenge. Let's face it, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only potential power. And so if you educate yourself and then don't do anything from that, then are you making the best possible, effective, healthy choices for yourself? Most likely not, because you're not taking the information and doing something with it. And even if you fail, you're still learning something, right? There will be challenges, there will be improvements, there'll be failure, there'll be forgiveness, there'll be follow through, all of that stuff. And if you follow me, I have 4 rebel F words that I love. It's failure, forgiveness, fortitude, and follow through. That's part of this process too. You can expect that if you are getting information and you're putting it out there and you're new at it, there's going to be some failure. And then the last challenge we're going to face here is facing the challenge, right? Beating challenge. Because there's so many different challenges that we can face. It'd be impossible for me to list them all here. But just thinking that there's a struggle or a challenge to even get up and think about what you would want to do or what boundary you would want to set, that is like facing the challenge, right? And so the best way to do this is to prepare, to think, go all the way back to day one and think about that future picture and how you want people to see you. And if you want to get there, there's going to have to be some clear cut lines that you follow and that other people follow to support you to be able to get there. So a lot of challenges. And so I'm going to ask that you post in Facebook and help us all kind of discover. Let's see if today is a brainstorming session day. I'm going to start a brainstorming post. So go and brainstorm. Just list out all the different challenges that you face whenever you are setting boundaries, or that you've set boundaries and they've been crossed, like all the challenges that come up for you. And let's start brainstorming just the challenges. We're not talking about solutions here, just the challenges, so that we can be prepared and think about how we want to respond to that. We'll get to the facing them, right? But being aware of them already sets you up to be prepared to do something about it. So don't forget to register for the live class. It's all about the laws of boundaries, which will help in overcoming the challenges. It'll help with setting boundaries. I mean, all the stuff when it comes to boundaries. It is going to be June 25th, excuse me, June 25th at 11 a.m. Central Time. I will record it. It will go out in the email. So if you can't show up live, no worries. But if you want to show up live so you can ask your questions, I will be answering all your questions and be doing the drawing live and in person. So what challenges do you have? Go to the Facebook group, start brainstorming, and let's help each other out here, right? Awareness is the best place to start. I keep saying it. You'll keep hearing it from me time and time again. Thank you guys for being with me for these 5 days. You've done great. Keep it up. Congratulations. Completion is got energy behind it. So do something for yourself today to reward yourself. Don't eat the whole cake. I'm Contessa Aiken, your Rebel Coach here at Rebel Rising. Bye.